but I remove the second hand, and you only get one shot if you don't take the second hand off. I mean, the result isn't factory quality, but I think it did the job. Okay, hear me out. We have two Swiss companies making mid-size, vintage-inspired divers, with Longines traditionally priced below Tudor. But when I saw this new Legend diver at $3,200, it's really starting to knock on Tudor's door. So in this video, we're gonna ask the tough question of, can this new Longines Legend Diver 39 compete with the likes of the Black Bays and the Pelagos? Hey guys, I'm Max and this is Watch Crunch. Hey, did you forget to get yourself a Christmas present this year? Because you can still do it by downloading the Watch Crunch app and hang out with us this holiday season. You deserve it, you selfless hard worker, you. I've always loved the design of the Legend Diver. The super compressor format is just unique in the watch world with that internally rotating bezel, initially conceived in the 50s as a way to bring the bezel inboard of the crystal to increase water resistance. With a double crown setup, there's just nothing that looks like it. But the Legend Diver used to come in 42, which was a little bit too big with those really long lugs, and a 36, which to me was just a tad small for a sports watch. So when I caught wind of the 39, I was immediately intrigued. And you know what? In the hands, the proportions don't disappoint. The watch is 12.8 millimeters thick with 47 lug to lug and 20 millimeters between the lugs. So it's in that Goldilocks zone for most wrists. But it wears even thinner because much of that height is attributable to a boxed sapphire that sits well proud of the bezel. The bezel, it's so thin that I honestly don't understand how it's holding the crystal in place. This crystal placement has a couple of effects. First, it brings the dial upwards such that it feels like it's almost flush with the top of the case. Second, the crystal offers great side-on distortions. Now, Longines has applied a generous coating of anti-reflection on both sides, and people are kind of divided on this. You'll hear them decry external AR because it can scratch. But for me, it's a trade-off I'd take for a crystal that's so clear that sometimes it looks like there's nothing even there. But back to the elephant in the room, $3,200 is aggressive. I honestly cringed a little bit when I saw it because I think there's like a mental threshold for us watch enthusiasts at about the 3K mark. I think of Tudors as starting at 3K. So how does Longines justify that price hike? Well, this watch has a lot of great specs, right? It's a full 300 meters of water resistance, so it's not a fake diver. But the big news is that the new L888.6 caliber, which is based on an ETA 2892, is now chronometer certified. Yes, it costs money to send your movement to COSC and have them certify it before you can put it in the case. But again, $3,000. Once you go past that, you're picking a fight with Tudor in my mind. And Tudor has been killing it. And if you want more evidence of this competition, look at the new Longines Zulu Diver Hodinkee edition. Do the colors look a little familiar? They're like kissing cousins to the Black Bay Pro. So you might say that the natural competitor to the Legend Diver 39 is the Pelagos 39. The Pelagos was released last year to great fanfare for much the same reason we celebrate the Legend Diver. It took a beloved design in the Pelagos 42, shrunk it down to a more manageable size, but retained its back to the past design and a sort of a monochromatic fascia. But the Pelagos 39 is priced at $4,700 now, and probably going to go up further in the new year. Some of that is because it's made of titanium. Okay, so that's too much of a stretch. So how about the Black Bay 58? It's still hard to beat after all these years with all its vintage goodness in steel. And at $4,000, it's much closer to the price of the Longines. And for that extra grand, you're getting lots of refinement upgrades, from applied markers to a better finished case with sharper edges and cleaner bevels. The Tudor really has like Rolex quality fit and finish, and it kind of makes the Legend Diver feel like a Seiko in comparison. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but I'm honestly a bit perplexed because when I reviewed the Longines Spirit a few months ago, that case was on par with any Tudor or Omega that I've handled. Maybe they came out of different factories for Longines, I'm not sure. So if the Legend Diver is not a competitor to the BB58, then what in Tudor's catalog is priced like it? We'd have to look at something like the Ranger 39. Now we have a fair fight because both are around $3,000 and both are three-handers with printed dials. The Tudor still wins on spec with an in-house Kanisi movement and their T-fit clasp for quick adjustment, but whereas the Ranger is a little bit bland. The Longines just is a more interesting looking watch. It has that internal bezel we talked about, operated by a secondary crown. It's also connected to a great beads of rice bracelet and a beautiful clasp that is reminiscent of decades gone by. Putting these two watches next to each other is the classic dichotomy of specs versus looks. But there's just one little detail on the Legend Diver design that bothered me from the beginning. See, the old ones had some faux patina that added a little bit of color to the dial, but the new ones, both in black and blue, have pure white superluminova, which looks stellar in the dark with a contrasting blue on the hands and a green glow for the markers, but in the light, it's super monochromatic and just looks kind of sterile. It feels like my eyes are looking for some sort of focal point on the style and not able to find it. And compare this with the three Tudors that we mentioned. The BB58, it has that red triangle at 12. The Ranger has the red seconds hand, and the Pelagos 39 has the red text on the bottom of the dial. So my silly self thought I could improve on what Longines has made, so I ordered some enamel paint off the internet, opened up the watch, and tried to paint the second hand myself. I had to try a few times, like paint it, wipe it off, paint it, and you only get one shot if you don't take the second hand off. Plus, I wanted to roughen up the surface a little bit so the paint will stick, so I sanded the tip of the hand with some 1000 grit sandpaper. Then I held it with some Rodico and carefully brushed the enamel paint on. It achieved my goal of adding just like a pop of color to this dial. Now for the blue dial, I think some yellow paint would really be striking. I'll link all my paint supplies in the description. It's like maybe 20 bucks total. So in the end, I really love this watch. I buy watches because of design first. If a watch isn't a stunner, I don't care how many beats per second this hairspring vibrates at. I mean, I can wholeheartedly say that the Legend Diver 39 has the perfect proportions for me. Slim enough to slip under any cuff, but with great wrist presence with that high dial to bezel ratio. And now with this pop of red, it's just like the cherry on top. Here it is on a burgundy zero pass strap. No added material under the case to ruin those perfect dimensions. This dial with those elongated markers just looks so unique. And I might add, some of those markers aren't necessarily painted on. They look like they are applied just without metal surrounds. Both the bezel and the dial are glossy, which gives it a bit of modern refinement. I think with a couple of little tweaks, Longines really has a winner on their hands. And as to the question of whether Longines can compete with Tudor, I'll let you be the judge of that. But if you want to see my review of the Pelagos 39 or the Ranger 39, check out these Tudor videos I filmed a few months ago. All right, until next time, take care.